Everyday Superpower, where we talk body language, relationships, game, everything in between. We got a body language one to discuss today. One for the fellas out there. A sign of submission, a sign of attraction, a sign of seduction. What we talking about? Well, maybe at this point the title of the video tells you, but I'm going to minimalize myself so you can see an image before you, yes? Ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum. What we've got before us is a cluster, right, of nonverbal cues. But in particular, I'm going to be talking today about the wrist. The exposure of the wrist, okay? I did a video which might come out just a day prior to this one. Unless I scramble them up and it happens to come afterwards. But I did a video on the exposure of the neck, right? And to me personally, I put the exposure of the neck alongside the exposure of the wrist. Yes, they can be produced and exposed in a myriad of different ways, and they're two completely different body parts, but generally the message is the same, and it's one of submission. It's one of accentuated femininity in relation to the dominance of the masculinity. That is why this behavior comes forth. Let's talk about it. We got a smoker there, which some men find attractive for numerous different reasons, some of them being that the cigarette represents the phallus and the phallic, whereas the idea that this woman is participating in this health deteriorating act is, may derive from a pattern of taking other actions that might not necessarily be for the good of her health, i.e. sleeping with you silly boy. So we're not here to talk about the cigarette and the signs of the cigarette and how you can smoke a cigarette and what direction the head faces when the cigarette is exhaled and how long the cigarette is inhaled for and the speed of the release of the smoke and so forth. But I'm speaking in regards to all of them different aspects because I do know the information in regards to that. So sign up, subscribe to this channel if you are interested in stuff like that, and we'll talk about it later. But she is using and weaponizing this smoking of the cigarette to expose the underside of her wrist, right? If you cut your wrist in a particular manner, you will bleed out and die. Yeah? That's a bold statement, but that's the truth. So, in order for her to expose her wrist to you, first and foremost, she needs to identify that you are not a threat, not a predator, yeah? Because predators in the wild will kill you, and that's where a lot of our biological nonverbal makeup comes from our evolutionary ancestors and what they had to deal with the big cats of the savannah and so forth. As a survival mechanism, it doesn't make sense to expose that which could be potential fatal for our life. The first law of human nature is to self-preserve. It's to survive in this world. Always has been. Same as the animals, same as the plant life, same with anything. We need to survive. So, for her to expose these fatal or potentially fatal body parts towards you shows that you don't threaten her to a degree where she has to hide that. So, she can metaphorically be herself. Yes? And I understand that some men think, oh, well, why shouldn't she be scared of me? I'm a dominant man and blah, blah, blah. My brother, in order to create good communication with anyone on planet Earth, you have to remove the threat response. In women, it's tenfold the man because the woman is of the weaker sex, physically speaking. So any man could come, and she's met many men who've been weird, right? We as men meet many men who are weird, but she as a woman has, has attracted a couple of weirdos in her time. Some of them might have been a bit touchy-feely. Some of them might have been just downright, terrifying as far as sending a shiver down her spine and alerting her survival mechanism that resides to keep her safe and sound. So the fact that she is exposing these things to you showcases that you have bypassed that, initial wariness, and that's power to you. That's a brilliant thing, right? That's where you want to be. So the threat resistance is down. Now we've gone into the realm of the submissive nature of the woman. She's essentially submitting to you, saying, you can take me if you want to, right? By doing this to you. Yeah? Women are more prone to touch. They've got more sensitive nerve endings. These erogenous zones, the neck, the wrists, and so forth, are very sensitive to touch. So, in order to advertise this to you, she is sending a non-conscious signal that she might want to potentially have that physical connection there. That's why she's putting it into the conversation non-verbally. That's why she's advertising it to the world. Or maybe not the world, but just you, yeah? There's a symbolic stripping that happens sometimes whilst you're dating. So when a woman starts to get more comfortable, if not when you start to get more comfortable, when a man starts to get more comfortable, when your friend gets more comfortable, when your family gets more comfortable, anyone, there can be a removing of the clothing, not to the point where you're naked or exposing too much, but there will be a removal of the clothing to, as long as the temperature makes sense. There'll be a removal of the clothing as to where feels necessary in accordance to the temperature, because you don't need that clothing which is serving as a symbolic representation of armor at that particular moment in time. When you feel uncomfortable, you close up, right? There's open body language and closed body language. And to be covered in clothing, to conceal oneself, to hide away, is defensive. So when you look at, these youth who get into bad situations and turn to the street life and so forth, the behaviors you see manifest in them are overcompensating for the reality that is, right? Highly emotional, highly volatile and impractical. That's feminine behavior, whereas they try to portray themselves as masculine entities, right? It's not the case. Generally speaking, there wasn't a father in the household and they've been brought up with these feminine ways, and anger that could be productively realigned elsewhere has manifested into the street life and the the negative vibration that radiates from there on. These kids will walk around with their hoods up, walk around these big puffy jackets, walk around with this shield that conceals them from the world, and you can find your own rationalization of such, but realistically speaking, this is it. If I'm shameful, I will hide away. She will pull her sleeves down in comfort and in exposure and in a indirect means of stripping her clothes to you. She will remove her jacket, exposing her bare arms. She'll pull her sleeves up, exposing her wrists. It is what it is. I'm not dumb. This is the reality of which is. We see it. You will see it after learning from this video. I see it, and I speak with the audacity that stems from the proof through my own in-field understandings, as well as referring to the literature, right? I don't just read a book and then hope for the best. I see it within the world around me. Whether I disagree or agree, it gives us space for discussion. Counter opposite, when you feel that somebody is hiding away from the conversation, when she is running away from the ideas you're bringing up, when you start speaking about a particular person she finds alarming in one way or another, she will pull the sleeves down, hiding herself from you, hiding herself from the thoughts and the conversation and the ideas and the direction the conversation is going. Sometimes when you start dating, right, maybe on your first date, you will see, given that she's wearing long sleeves, you will see the up and down motion, maybe numerous times within the first couple of hours. That's real talk. Pay attention to this. Understand when you're going too far. When she starts to conceal herself, it might not necessarily be you, but the conversation you're having at that particular moment in time, it might be time to change. And then 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if not less, you will see exposure once again. When she's smoking the cigarette there, you can very easily smoke a cigarette like that. Right? You can very easily stroke your hair like that. But the idea that the wrist is outward is to be taken into consideration, because if she was under any sort of threat, if she had assessed anything potentially threatening, if not she was in a mind state where she was under some sort of stress, this wouldn't be manifest through her body language and her nonverbal behavior. No way. That's some good game. Click like and subscribe as always. Check out the link down below. Peace.